Most people think power is loud, who speaks the most, moves the fastest, or dominates the room. But real power doesn't rush, doesn't react, and doesn't need to prove itself. Real power is being strong under pressure, patient in delay, and calm in chaos. Power is misunderstood. Most people think power is loud. They think power is aggression. They think power is dominance. But real power doesn't announce itself. Real power doesn't rush. Real power doesn't panic. Real power is strength, patience, and calm working together. Be strong. Strength is not about how hard you can hit. It's about how much you can carry without breaking. It's about standing firm when quitting would feel easier. It's about doing what's right even when no one is watching. Weak people react. Strong people respond. Strength is discipline. Strength is saying no when temptation says yes. Strength is staying committed when motivation disappears. If you can control yourself, you don't need to control anyone else. Be patient. Patience is not waiting. Patience is waiting without losing your posture. Most people quit too soon because they want the reward without the process. But everything valuable requires time to mature. You don't rush a harvest. You don't rush growth. And you don't rush greatness. Patience gives your effort time to compound. It separates professionals from amateurs. Those who stay patient while others panic end up owning the results. Everyone else wanted fast. Be calm. Calm is not weakness. Calm is clarity. When emotions run high, intelligence runs low. The calm person can think while others react. The calm person can decide while others complain. Chaos is expensive. Calm is profitable. When you stay calm under pressure, you gain an unfair advantage. People trust you, people follow you, people listen to you because calm signals control. And when you combine strength, patience, and calm, you become dangerous in the best way. Unshakable, unstoppable, unbothered. Life will test you, pressure will come, delays will frustrate you, but remember this, anyone can be loud, anyone can rush, anyone can react. Power belongs to the person who can stay strong, stay patient, and stay calm, no matter what. That is not weakness. That is not passivity. That is mastery. That is leadership. That is power. Strength is internal before it is external because everything visible in life is first decided in the invisible. Before strength ever shows up in actions, results, leadership, or confidence, it is formed in the mind, the character, and the discipline of a person. External strength without internal strength is temporary. It looks impressive for a moment, but it collapses under pressure. Internal strength, on the other hand, can exist quietly, unnoticed, and still be powerful enough to change the direction of a life. Internal strength is the ability to stand firm when no one is applauding you. It is the courage to keep going when progress feels slow and doubt feels loud. It is choosing consistency over comfort and principle over popularity. Many people appear strong on the outside. They speak confidently, project authority, and demand respect. But when faced with adversity, criticism, or delay, they fall apart. That collapse reveals the truth. Strength that is not rooted internally cannot survive external pressure. True strength begins with self-control. If you cannot control your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions, then circumstances will control you. The strongest people are not those who never feel fear, frustration, or temptation. They are the ones who do not allow those feelings to dictate their behavior. They pause instead of reacting. They think instead of exploding. They choose response over impulse. That quiet discipline is strength in its purest form. Internal strength also means being honest with yourself. It takes strength to admit weaknesses, confront limitations, and take responsibility instead of making excuses. Weakness hides behind blame, denial, and distraction. Strength faces reality even when it is uncomfortable. Growth only happens where honesty exists, and honesty requires courage. When you are strong internally, you are not threatened by feedback, failure, or change because your identity is not fragile. Another dimension of internal strength is endurance. Anyone can start strong when motivation is high and conditions are favorable. Few can remain steady when the excitement fades and the work becomes repetitive. Internal strength is what keeps you moving when results are delayed, when recognition is absent, and when quitting feels justified. It is the ability to outlast discomfort without losing focus or character. Endurance is not glamorous, but it is unstoppable. Internal strength also shapes how you treat others. When strength is internal, there is no need to dominate, intimidate, or belittle. Secure people do not need to prove their worth by overpowering others. They lead with calm confidence, listen without defensiveness, and correct without cruelty. External force demands compliance. Internal strength earns respect. People follow those who are stable, not those who are volatile. When internal strength is present, external strength becomes a byproduct rather than a performance. Confidence feels natural, not forced. Authority feels grounded, not aggressive. Success becomes sustainable because it is built on discipline rather than emotion. Even setbacks lose their power to destroy because internal strength turns obstacles into instruction instead of defeat. Life will always apply pressure. Challenges will come. Delays will test patience. Criticism will challenge confidence. In those moments, external strength will not save you. Titles, status, physical ability, or loud words will not carry you through. Only what you have built internally will remain standing. That is why strength must be internal before it is external, because what is built on the inside determines what survives on the outside. When you master yourself, the world becomes easier to navigate. When you control your inner world, your outer world begins to align. That is real strength. Quiet, stable, unshakable. Patience multiplies outcomes because time is not the enemy of success, impatience is. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, opportunity, or effort. They fail because they quit too soon, change direction too often, or demand results before the process has had time to work. Patience is what allows effort to compound instead of being reset. It turns small, consistent actions into massive results. And without it, even the best strategy collapses. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active endurance. It is continuing to show up, to work, to learn, and to improve while resisting the urge to rush the reward. Anyone can work hard for a short period of time. Very few people can work steadily without immediate validation. That ability alone creates separation. While impatient people jump from one thing to the next looking for quick wins, patient people stay long enough to master their craft, refine their skills, and build momentum that others never reach. Outcomes are multiplied through patience because growth follows a curve, not a straight line. In the beginning, progress feels invisible. Effort seems disconnected from results. This is where most people stop. But those who remain patient pass through the slow phase and enter acceleration. What looked like stagnation turns out to be preparation. What felt like delay turns out to be development. Patience allows you to stay long enough to experience that shift. Patience also protects decision-making. When people are impatient, they make emotional choices. They chase shortcuts, compromise standards, and abandon proven plans for temporary relief. These decisions feel good in the moment, but cost heavily over time. Patience creates clarity. It gives you space to think instead of react, to evaluate instead of panic. Calm, patient decisions accumulate into better outcomes than rushed, emotional ones ever could. Another way patience multiplies outcomes is by building credibility and trust. People trust consistency. They trust those who are steady, reliable, and resilient. Whether in leadership, business, or relationships, patience communicates confidence. It signals that you are not desperate, not unstable, and not easily shaken. Over time, that reputation opens doors that force and urgency never will. Opportunities come more easily to those who are willing to wait and prepare rather than rush and demand. Patience also strengthens character. Waiting reveals who you are. It exposes entitlement, insecurity, and doubt, but it also builds discipline, humility, and self-control. Each moment you choose patience over frustration, you reinforce your ability to stay focused under pressure. That inner growth directly impacts external results. A person who can wait without losing discipline can handle success without losing themselves. Many people underestimate how much patience amplifies effort. A small action repeated consistently over time outperforms intense effort applied briefly. This is why patience is so powerful. It keeps you in the game long enough for effort to stack, skills to sharpen, and systems to work. What looks slow at first becomes unstoppable later. Patience doesn't just add to outcomes, it multiplies them. In the end, patience is a competitive advantage. In a world addicted to speed, instant gratification, and constant change, the person who can stay committed, calm, and consistent will always win. Not because they move faster, but because they stayed longer. Patience gives time the opportunity to work in your favor. And when time and effort align, the results are always greater than expected. Calmness is control because the person who can regulate their inner state cannot be easily controlled by external circumstances. When emotions are unstable, decisions become unstable. When reactions are impulsive, outcomes become unpredictable. Calmness creates a buffer between stimulus and response, and in that space lies power. The ability to remain calm is not a personality trait, it is a discipline. It is learned, practiced, and strengthened through awareness and restraint. Most people believe calmness means lack of passion or intensity, but the opposite is true. Calmness allows passion to be directed rather than wasted. When emotions run unchecked, energy leaks into frustration, anger, fear, and regret. Calmness gathers that energy and channels it into focus and purpose. A calm person does not suppress emotion, they master it. They feel deeply but choose carefully. That choice is control. Calmness is especially powerful under pressure. Pressure reveals patterns. When things go wrong, some people panic, overreact, or freeze. Others slow down, breathe, assess, and act with precision. The difference is not intelligence or experience alone, it is emotional regulation. Calmness keeps the mind clear when chaos tries to cloud it. Clear thinking leads to better decisions, and better decisions lead to better results. Control over emotions also creates control over communication. Words spoken in anger are expensive. Decisions made in frustration are costly. Calmness allows you to listen fully, speak deliberately, and respond strategically. It prevents small problems from becoming permanent damage. People who stay calm can de-escalate conflict, build trust, and maintain authority without raising their voice or forcing compliance. Calm influence outperforms loud dominance every time. Calmness also protects confidence. When your emotional state is dependent on external validation, criticism can destabilize you, and praise can distract you. Calmness anchors confidence internally. You are not shaken by opinions because your sense of self is not fragile. Why? You evaluate feedback without absorbing unnecessary noise. That stability allows you to grow without being controlled by the reactions of others. Another aspect of calmness is patience and uncertainty. Not every situation demands immediate action. Some require observation, timing, and restraint. Calmness gives you the ability to wait without anxiety and to move without hesitation when the moment is right. Impulsive action often feels productive but creates long-term problems. Calm action may look slow, but is precise and effective. Calmness also signals leadership. People instinctively look to the calmest person in the room during moments of crisis. Calm communicates confidence, competence, and safety. It reassures others and stabilizes environments. Leaders who remain calm create trust because people know they won't be driven by fear or ego. That trust becomes influence. And influence is a form of control far more powerful than authority. In a world designed to provoke reaction, calmness is resistance. Notifications, opinions, urgency, and noise constantly compete for attention and emotional energy. The person who can remain calm chooses what deserves a response and what does not. That selectivity is control over time, energy, and focus. When you control those, you control outcomes. Ultimately, calmness is not about avoiding stress, but about not being ruled by it. Stress will exist. Challenges will arise. Chaos will visit. Calmness ensures that when it does, you remain in command of yourself. And when you control yourself, you control your decisions. When you control your decisions, you control your direction. That is why calmness is control. Emotions are tools, not leaders, because they are meant to inform you, not command you. Emotions provide data about your internal state and your environment, but when they are allowed to take control, they distort judgment and sabotage direction. Just as a tool is useful only when handled with skill, emotions are powerful only when managed with awareness. Left unchecked, they do not guide you forward, they pull you off course. Every emotion has a purpose. Fear warns, anger signals boundaries, joy reinforces progress, sadness invites reflection. The problem is not emotion itself, but obedience to emotion. When emotions become leaders, decisions are made impulsively, reactions replace strategy, and short-term relief overrides long-term vision. Leadership requires clarity, and clarity cannot exist when emotions are driving the process instead of supporting it. People who allow emotions to lead often confuse intensity with truth. Just because something feels strong does not mean it is correct. Feelings fluctuate based on mood, stress, fatigue, and circumstance. If decisions rise and fall with emotional highs and lows, consistency becomes impossible. Progress demands stability, and stability requires that emotions be consulted, not followed blindly. When emotions are treated as tools, they become assets. Awareness replaces reactivity. You learn to pause, interpret what you are feeling, and choose an intentional response. That pause is critical. It separates impulse from intelligence. It allows logic, values, and long-term goals to take priority. The strongest individuals are not those who feel less, but those who decide more. Anger, when controlled, becomes fuel for change rather than destruction. Fear, when managed, becomes preparation rather than paralysis. Confidence, when regulated, becomes competence rather than arrogance. Even doubt can be useful when it encourages learning instead of avoidance. Emotions, when placed in the right position, sharpen performance rather than sabotage it. Emotional leadership is expensive. Words spoken in emotional moments can destroy trust that took years to build. Decisions made in frustration often create consequences that last far longer than the emotion itself. Emotional reactions feel justified in the moment, but rarely age well. When you lead yourself with principle instead of feeling, you reduce regret and increase effectiveness. Treating emotions as tools also strengthens relationships. Emotional intelligence allows you to empathize without being overwhelmed, to care without losing boundaries, and to communicate without escalating conflict. When emotions are tools, you can acknowledge them without being controlled by them. That balance creates respect, stability, and trust. Self-leadership begins with emotional discipline. You can not lead others if you cannot lead yourself. A person who is constantly driven by mood, impulse, or emotional pressure will struggle to maintain consistency. Calm, deliberate action builds credibility. People follow those who are predictable in character, not those who are unpredictable in emotion. In high-pressure moments, emotional mastery becomes even more critical. Pressure amplifies emotion. Without control, stress leads to panic, anger leads to rash decisions, and fear leads to hesitation. With control, those same emotions become information, guiding careful action instead of reckless behavior. Ultimately, emotions are powerful instruments, but only when placed in the hands of a disciplined mind. They are signals, not commands, tools, not leaders. When you learn to use them instead of obey them, you gain clarity, control, and consistency. And that mastery is a defining mark of real power. Pressure reveals power because it removes performance and exposes reality. When conditions are comfortable, almost anyone can appear confident, disciplined, and capable. Pressure strips away that comfort. It compresses circumstances, increases stakes, and forces responses. In those moments, what you truly possess on the inside comes to the surface. Pressure does not create character, it uncovers it. When pressure arrives, reactions replace rehearsed behavior. There is no time to pretend, no space to hide behind image or intention. The way a person thinks, speaks, and decides under pressure shows the depth of their preparation and the strength of their inner foundation. Some people become reactive, defensive, or chaotic. Others become focused, deliberate, and calm. The difference is power, and power shows itself when stress is highest. Pressure tests emotional control. Anyone can remain composed when nothing is at risk. Real control is demonstrated when outcomes matter expectations are heavy, and consequences are real. Those who have built internal strength respond with clarity rather than panic. They slow down instead of speeding up. They assess instead of reacting. That ability to remain steady while everything else is unstable is a clear sign of power. Pressure also exposes discipline. Under stress, habits take over. If preparation has been shallow, mistakes multiply. If discipline has been consistent, performance sharpens. Power under pressure is not accidental. It is the result of repeated choices made long before the moment arrived. The person who performs well under pressure is rarely lucky. They are ready. Another way pressure reveals power is through decision-making. High-pressure situations demand prioritization. There is no room for distraction or indecision. People who lack power hesitate, second-guess, or make emotional choices. Those with power decide with confidence, even when information is incomplete. They accept responsibility and move forward. Decisiveness under pressure signals authority and competence. Pressure also reveals leadership. In moments of uncertainty, people look for stability. They gravitate toward the person who remains calm, communicates clearly, and acts with purpose. Leadership is not declared, it is recognized under pressure. Those who can carry the weight of responsibility without transferring panic to others demonstrate real power. They become anchors while others drift. Pressure reveals whether strength is internal or superficial. External strength depends on favorable conditions. Internal strength adapts to adversity. When pressure disrupts plans, challenges identity, and threatens comfort, internal power remains intact. It adjusts strategy without losing direction. It absorbs stress without breaking focus. That resilience is power in action. Failure under pressure is not weakness, losing control is. Mistakes can be corrected. Emotional collapse cannot. Power allows a person to recover quickly, learn immediately, and continue forward without self-destruction. Pressure tests not only performance, but recovery. The ability to regain composure and momentum after a setback is one of the clearest signs of strength. In the end, pressure is not something to fear, but something to respect. It is the environment where power becomes visible. It separates potential from reality and intention from capability. When pressure comes, it will reveal what you have built. Those who have invested in discipline, calmness, and patience will rise, not because pressure favored them, but because press. Uri exposed the power they already possessed. Consistency beats intensity because success is not built by occasional bursts of effort, but by repeated disciplined action over time. Intensity feels impressive. It creates momentum quickly and looks productive in the moment. But intensity is difficult to sustain. Consistency, on the other hand, is quiet, often unnoticed, and far more powerful. It turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results by allowing effort to compound. Intense effort usually depends on emotion. When motivation is high, people push hard, work long hours, and make bold moves. But emotions fluctuate. When excitement fades, intensity disappears with it. Consistency does not rely on feeling inspired. It relies on commitment. It is the decision to show up regardless of mood, energy level, or external validation. That reliability is what creates progress that lasts. Consistency builds habits, and habits shape outcomes. A small action done daily will outperform a large action done occasionally. Skills improve through repetition, not extremes. Strength is developed through regular training, not sporadic overexertion. Trust is built through consistent behavior, not intense promises. Over time, consistency creates a foundation that intensity alone cannot support. Another reason consistency wins is that it reduces burnout. Intensity often leads to exhaustion, frustration, and quitting. People push too hard, too fast, and then collapse. Consistency respects sustainability. It allows for steady progress without sacrificing health, focus, or balance. Those who move at a manageable pace stay in the game longer. And longevity always outperforms short-term force. Consistency also sharpens discipline. When actions are repeated daily, discipline becomes automatic. There is less resistance, less decision fatigue, and less reliance on willpower. What once required effort becomes routine. This efficiency frees mental energy for improvement and strategy instead of constant motivation. Intensity demands constant fuel. Consistency becomes self-sustaining. Over time, consistency builds credibility. People trust those who are dependable. Whether in leadership, business, or personal growth, consistent behavior signals stability and professionalism. Intense effort may impress briefly, but consistent results earn long-term respect. Opportunities often come to those who are reliable, not those who are merely enthusiastic. Consistency also allows for adjustment and learning. When you show up regularly, you notice patterns, identify weaknesses, and refine approach. Intensity often skips reflection in favor of force. Consistency creates feedback loops. Each repetition becomes an opportunity to improve. This gradual refinement leads to mastery. The compounding effect of consistency is often underestimated because progress is slow at first. Results may seem insignificant early on, leading many to quit, but consistency operates quietly. Over time, small gains stack, momentum builds, and outcomes accelerate. What once felt insignificant becomes undeniable. Consistency does not just add to results, it multiplies them. In the long run, intensity may start the journey, but consistency finishes it. Motivation may open the door, but discipline keeps it open. Those who commit to steady action, even when progress feels slow, inevitably surpass those who rely on bursts of effort. Consistency wins not because it is flashy, but because it is faithful. And faithfulness over time is unstoppable. In the end, power is not found in how loud you speak, how fast you move, or how hard you push in a single moment. Power is revealed in who you become over time. It is built quietly through internal strength, multiplied through patience, protected by calmness, directed by emotional discipline, proven under pressure, and sustained by consistency. Life will test you, delays will challenge you, pressure will expose you. But if you remain strong when it's difficult, patient when it's slow, and calm when it's chaotic, you will always stay in control when emotions serve you instead of lead you, when pressure sharpens you instead of breaks you, and when consistency outlasts intensity. You rise above circumstances rather than being ruled by them. This is not temporary power. This is not borrowed confidence. This is mastery, the kind of power that cannot be taken because it was built from the inside out. Stay strong, stay patient, stay calm. This is power.